Of course, you will recognize this as being Washington, D.C. Yes, the home of our Congress, investigations, and our presidents. It is also the domicile of the Blake family, one of whom is our main character. As a matter of fact, our main character stems from a long line of characters, the first of whom was Colonel Jonathan Blake. Jonathan served with distinction in the Revolutionary War and begat 9 descendants, one of whom begat Samuel Blake, who covered himself with glory as a cavalry major in the war between the states. He had 7 descendants, one of whom begat Jackson Blake, who was just 2 jumps behind Teddy Roosevelt at San Juan Hill in Cuba. Jackson had 5 descendants, one of whom begat Robert Blake, Congressional Medal of Honor man in the First World War. Robert had 2 descendants, one of whom begat Larry, Second World War atomic scientist. And as our story opens, Larry hasn't begat anyone.
Leeds, he's here, boy. Come on, bring him here, boy. Come on, bring him here. Attaboy.
You know, one of these days it's going to come to the point of whether it's either that dog or myself.
I'll bet on Fleet.
I can't understand why you insist on having him in the house.
Haven't you heard? A dog is man's best friend.
Well, he doesn't behave like my best friend.
He's a great judge of character. Fleet is.
Oh, from now on, let him judge somebody else's character. I'm sick of being pushed around.
Why don't you try making friends with him?
Because I'm not interested in him as a friend. And furthermore, the next time he bites me, I'm going to sue you.
Well, well. I've got my picture in the paper. Aren't you proud of me?
You couldn't just up and leave quietly, could you? You always have to have a 21-gun salute.
Can I help it if thousands of women hang on my every adventure?
Some people think your brother's work is extremely important.
What's important about it? He knows that the South Pole is there. So then he goes down and discovers it. Was anybody surprised when it turned out to be just exactly where he thought it would be?
I was.
So was I.
He spends thousands of dollars to climb a mountain he could fly over for the price of an airplane ticket.
What do you care? I'm not bothering you.
You bother me more than you think you do.
Don't forget your vitamins.
People are always asking me about you.
Well, why don't you tell them?
Tell them what? That my brother's off his rocker? That he's a little boy who refuses to grow up?
Oh, by the way, I still have an extra place in the expedition if you think you'd care to come along.
Come along? What are you talking about?
Why not? It would do you good to get out of that cyclotron for a few weeks. I'll bet you have muscles that you haven't used since you were a baby.
So I should go wandering off to age with you, just as the whole world's going to pieces.
It would probably do a lot more good if you and your pals quit taking it to pieces, atom by atom.
You tend to your little insignificant life. I'll tend to mine.
You always were a strange kid, playing with dolls and all that sort of thing.
I never played with a doll in my life.
Then what was that thing that you used to take to bed with you?
That was a teddy bear, and I was 3 years old. I'll go throwing your muscles around this place. You'll find us completely unimpressed.
You know, you might not look bad with a muscle.
You might not look bad with a brain. What do you think I'm going to tell the reporters when they start asking me about this new insane trip of yours?
Deny that I'm your brother. Tell them the babies were mixed in the hospital.
Reincarnation. Where did you get that idea?
That's not my idea. Those flyers that were shot down during the war said that a remote tribe in Tibet had visual proof of reincarnation. I think it's worth checking.
Couldn't you have a little consideration for my position? How do you think it looks for the assistant head of the Atomic Research Society to have a brother who suddenly goes mystic?
If I can put up with your bombs, you can put up with my trips.
But reincarnation? Really, George?
Stranger things have happened.
Not since your birth. I'm late to the office.
I'm on my way.
Have a good trip, George.
Thanks, Uncle Jim.
If I were only a few years younger.
I won't be responsible for that dog if you leave him in this house.
Oh, he's going with me. For all I know, he's Marco Polo.
Well, don't take too many chances.
Thanks, Larry. And if I find out anything interesting about this reincarnation business, I'll come back and tell you about it, one way or another.
I'll live for that day.
Uh-oh. Don't forget your atoms.
My brother's actions are entirely his own, gentlemen.
But what do you as a scientist think of these rumors of reincarnation?
I think they're the prattling of a 2-year-old mind, and just exactly the type of prattling my brother would listen to.
You and your brother don't get along, do you, Mr. Blake?
Of course we do. In a strange way. But our IQs happen to be separated by something like 50 points.
Then you don't think there's anything in reincarnation?
I think it's about as likely as free money.
What's new on the atomic front, Mr. Blake?
No comment.
Are our scientists getting anywhere with cosmic energy?
No comment.
There is anything...
No comment. All right, Terry. That's all for today, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take this.
What's that?
Vitamins A, D, B1, B2, G, B6, C, and E. And here are the reports from California.
Thanks. George get off all right?
Doesn't he always? He's quite a boy, that George.
You like boys. You saw quite a bit of him the last time he was here, didn't you, Terry?
Every time he asked me.
I didn't know you went for the woodsy type.
It's a relief after the brain waves you get around here. You ever noticed how young nuclear scientists all smell like molecules?
And what does George smell like?
An afternoon in the country. Excitement. Adventure.
That's funny. You don't look like the type.
For what?
George?
You ought to do a little research on women. George has great big muscles, and he's fun to go out with.
What does he talk about?
Well, me. If you don't think that's important, try it sometime. Oh, and what's more important, Dr. Nolan will be here at 12:30 to continue with your examination.
All right.
You know, George worries about you.
I can imagine.
He's afraid that fine brain of yours is going to go to pot if you don't let it out for a little air sometime.
Let George worry about his reincarnation. I'm doing fine. Yes?
Dr. Nolan is here.
Send him in.
Morning, Terry.
Hello, Dr. Nolan.
Ready, Larry?
Good morning, Doctor. I'll take up where I left off yesterday. And then, when I was 4 years old, George was always teasing me because his arms were longer than mine. I remember telling myself that this didn't matter, that it didn't make any difference how long your arms were. And then I'd see George grinning at me. I'd go right out and hang by my arms all day trying to stretch them.
What happened?
I got so that I was more at home in trees than I was on the ground. I'd hang up there hours on end, and nobody could get me down until it was dark. And then I'd go in the house and George would grin at me. I'd go right back out and hang by my arms for the rest of the night.
I see. Is there anything else?
As a matter of fact, there is. Why am I doing this? Why am I telling you these things? It only embarrasses me, and I can't see that it's doing me any good.
Larry, you may not realize it, but you're on the verge of a nervous breakdown.
Then give me something to stop it. I haven't time for a breakdown now.
I wish it were as simple as that. I'm afraid you've developed a frustration regarding George.
So that's it. Now he's frustrating me. Creeping into my subconscious, driving me to a nervous breakdown.
You must try and keep him out of your mind.
That's the most ridiculous advice I've ever heard. How can I keep him out of my mind when the papers are full of him? Is that there is perhaps more than one kind of mesotron, or that the mesotron breaks up into several different kinds of particles. I'm into no one.
It's urgent. Uncle Jim, you must come out.
Excuse me, gentlemen.
I'm sorry, Larry.
Is there any hope?
I'm afraid not. I had the State Department on the phone. They found the wreckage from the air.
He's a great guy.
I know. Is there anything I can do?
Look out for Terry, will you? Well, gentlemen, will you please excuse me? I'm awfully tired. We'll continue this tomorrow.
We understand, Blake. You better get some rest.
Hey, I wonder if he found out anything about this reinCURnation business he was at.
Of course not.
Well, you never can tell. He seemed to think there was something to it.
He did not. He was just looking for an excuse to take another trip.
I've been around a lot, seen a lot of places, a lot of strange things, especially in them Asiatic countries. Hey, supposing he found out something about it. What do you suppose he'd come back as?
A dog. I bet your life on that. Bartender.
What's the matter?
This dog.
What dog? Well, how did he get in here?
I couldn't tell you.
He must have sneaked in. I'll put him out.
No, that's all right.
Well, if you're sure he won't be bothering you. Hey, he's kind of cute, isn't he?
I don't know.
What?
He wouldn't.
Who wouldn't?
On the other hand, it's just the sort of thing he would do.
Who would?
Hurry up with that drink. I've got to figure this thing out.
I'm going as fast as I can.
Now, the thing to do is to not get panicky.
You feel all right?
If it is you, it's a cheap trick. And furthermore, it isn't funny.
Are you sure you need another one?
Not that enough. I think I've had enough. Come on, George. We're going home. I have a few things to discuss with you. You haven't changed a bit. Am I going out of my mind? Wouldn't it be strange if an ill-born little mongrel like you drove a nuclear physicist out of his mind? All right. If it is you, give me some proof. You can't just come back looking like that and expect anybody to believe you. Well, go on. Say something. So, it is you. Well, my dear brother, you needn't think this is just going to be a field day for you. I have lots of work to do, and you'll have to stay pretty much in the background. Most people won't be so tolerant about other people going around as dogs. They won't like it. You won't be invited too many places. And stay out of my business. I don't know what your plans are, but count me out of them.
Larry.
Oh, hello, Uncle Jim. Where have you been?
Out looking for you? What have you been doing with that dog?
Somehow I think you'd rather not hear about that tonight.
Where have you been?
To strange places, Uncle. To places where very few people have ever been.
Where are they?
To the bar around the corner.
Larry, I think you'd better get to bed.
Oh, I know. You'll think I'm crazy.
Why should I think you're crazy?
Well, a few hours ago, I wouldn't have believed it myself.
Believed what?
Uncle Jim, that's George.
Larry, let's get to bed.
Oh, you don't believe me, do you?
Sure, I believe you.
No,
but...
no. You think I've had too much to drink, that I'm out of my mind.
Now, please, Larry.
You'll just have to get used to the idea. This is George, and he's come back to live with us.
Larry, I'm going to call the doctor.
It won't do you any good. George is beyond the help of all doctors. Aren't you, George?
Won't you get to bed, Larry?
Of course I will. Now, don't you worry, old-timer. I didn't expect you to accept it right away. And I found it a little difficult to believe myself. But isn't it exactly the sort of thing you'd expect him to do?
Who?
George, of course. Never satisfied with what he's got. Instead of lolling around heaven, having himself a time, he has to come back and annoy me, just to prove a point. Come on, George, let's go to bed.
You'll feel better in the morning, Larry.
Feel better? I wonder, Uncle. I wonder if any of us will ever feel better again now that this terrible thing has happened. You know, only George would go to such elaborate lengths to irritate me. But he's overlooked one thing. This town has one of the most diligent dog catchers in the country, and I may refuse to buy a license for it.
Oh, Terry, I'm so glad you're here. I hated to call you so late last night, but frankly, I didn't know what to do.
Believe me, I'm glad you did. I got in touch with the chief right away.
What did he say?
He thinks Larry should take a couple of months off and rest.
Oh, he'll never agree to that.
He'll have to. If Larry should suddenly blow his top, some of the stuff he'd blow would be dynamite. The chief's worried.
It was positively weird the way he acted last night.
Oh, hello, Terry. I'm terribly sorry about everything that's happened.
So am I, Larry. I just wondered if there's anything I could do.
Oh, what can any of us do? You quit staring at me like that.
Sorry.
What have you done with him?
Who?
You know who.
Oh, you mean the dog? I haven't seen him this morning. I thought maybe you'd let him out.
He doesn't need anyone to let him out. If he wants out, he knows how to get there. I suppose he told you I'm out of my mind.
Well, he did mention something about it.
And you phoned the chief, and he suggested a nice, long rest.
That's right. And I think you really need it.
Maybe I do. Maybe I do. I may decide to do a little research of my own.
Research on what?
What have you done with George?
Oh, Larry, now listen,
Good morning, George.
Is that the...
Mm-hmm.
This must come as somewhat of a surprise to Terry. Although if you knew George as well as you claim, it certainly can't be any surprise.
Oh, Larry, this is ridiculous.
I agree with you perfectly. It's George's dull idea of a funny joke.
Surely you don't believe that this...
This is George? Of course I do, and you will too, as soon as he starts pulling some of his little tricks.
Don't you think that...
Now, don't you worry. I won't let him bother you.
Larry, won't you let me send for Dr. Nolan?
By all means, if you want to. He was a good friend of George's.
I think I'd better go down to the office.
Oh, Terry, I'd appreciate it if you didn't say anything about this.
Don't worry.
I may come down to the office later today myself.
We'll just take it easy today.
We? Oh, no, Uncle Jim, I want you out of here. I have some plans for today.
Yeah, but
I'm the one who's crazy, and you'd better humor me.
You sure you'll be all right?
Perfectly sure. Now, come on. Out you go.
Larry, I don't think I'd better.
There's nothing to be so alarmed about. I'm merely going to try to establish a means of communicating with him. Tonight, we can all have a nice, long talk. He probably has some very interesting stories to tell. All right, George. I'll be with you in a minute. Bye now. I'll see you tonight for dinner. Have a good time.
Maybe the dog will bite him or something.
Oh, no. Not that dog. Well, what can we do?
I don't know. It's too ridiculous. George didn't even believe that stuff himself.
All right, if you'll just sit over there, we'll get down to business. Excuse me, George. I'll be right back.
Well, sir, good morning, sir. Good morning. My goodness, you look like an intelligent man. I like to talk to intelligent people because I'm an intelligent person myself. Yes, sir. Now, friend, I have here a product. There's a little fountain pen that not only writes 50,000 feet high up in the air, unaffected by radioactivity, but also writes equally as well underwater.
Yes, but
now, you're going to say, so what? Perhaps it does ride underwater. Now, I'm going to say why it's ridiculous for a fountain pen to ride underwater.
But I
now,
don't...
why? Why, my friend? Why is it ridiculous for a pen to ride underwater?
Oh,
now,
if you'd only listen to me.
You're going to say, because you can't see what you're writing. All right, brother, I've solved that. Would you hold that just a minute? Today, and for today only, to everybody who buys one of those little underwater writing pens, I'm going to give, absolutely free, one of these genuine Hoggensburg underwater diving masks. Look at that. Ain't that a beauty? There you are. Look, now you can see what you're writing underwater.
No. I don't want to write underwater. I can't write. I have fountain pens, lots of them.
Well, if not for yourself, brother, perhaps for somebody in the family.
No.
Oh, my goodness, I see you've got a dog there. Say, I'm a dog lover myself. Now,
I hate dogs, and that's not a dog, that's my brother. hope we won't be interrupted. Fine. Say, there's an idea. We could work out a code where one bark means A, two barks mean B. That'd be too tedious. For the present, I'll just ask questions. One bark means yes, two barks mean no. Understand? Fine. Now, George, tell me, was your death painful? Was it a slow death? I'm sorry. Really sorry. Was the transformation difficult? I'll bet there was plenty of opposition from higher up, huh? What are you doing here? Can't you see we're busy?
Hey, are you doing something that you're ashamed of?
Of course not. Why should I be ashamed? Now, go on, get out of here.
Wait a minute. I've discovered exactly what you need.
I don't need
I've
it.
discovered what every man needs to make a dog, at least George there, understand. Now, just a minute, and I'll show it to you. There it is. That's a silent dog whistle, my friend. Now, you and I, intelligent men that we are, we can't hear that. But an animal, because of its superior audio system, can hear that near and far. Now, let me prove it to you. Here.
George, you come back here.
I'm sorry, mister. You know, nothing like this has ever happened to me before. Maybe, well, perhaps a kiss and a whistle was just a little bit off key, and excuse me.
You know, that's no good. Larry, you're not going out again, are you?
Why not?
Oh, it's been 2 weeks. Don't you think you ought to give up?
I certainly do not.
But we've tried everything. Advertising, offering rewards, even the city pound.
Nevertheless, I'm going to keep on.
But even if it were, George, don't you think he'd come back of his own accord?
How do I know what he'd do? That's what worries me.
Now, what could he possibly do?
What could he possibly do? He came back as a dog, didn't he? Any man capable of doing a thing like that's liable to do anything.
But even if it were, George, he wouldn't do anything to hurt you.
Oh, wouldn't he? How about when I was 7? He told me that if I took a deep breath and held it, I could jump off the garage and float down. I broke 2 legs on that one.
Now, listen, Larry.
You don't know George the way I do. That's the reason I want him where I can keep an eye on him. George, disguised as a dog, is a much more potent weapon than that little bomb I helped to develop.
But
if he comes back before I do, throw a leash on him.
wouldn't it be funny if it were, George?
Uncle Jim.
No, I didn't mean that. Honestly, I didn't. But he's got me so upset, I don't know what I'm doing. What do you say we take in a picture?
Oh, no, I don't feel like it. It would be funny, wouldn't it?
Terry!
All right, let's get out of here.
George.
Come on, Josephine.
George? George! 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 Pardon me. That dog.
Well, what about him?
He's mine.
Oh, I see.
I lost him about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, that's when I found him. I'd hate to lose him.
Well, I wouldn't bother taking him, only it happens he's my he's my best hunting dog.
This, a hunting dog? What does he hunt?
Oh, anything that needs hunting.
He doesn't seem very glad to see you.
Of course he's glad. It's just that he never was very demonstrative.
What did you call him?
George.
Well, call him.
Come here, George. Now, George, I said come here. Now, look, George, let's not have any trouble.
How long did you say you had him?
All my life.
And how often did you beat him?
Beat him? I never laid a hand on him. As a matter of fact, when we were kids, he was always picking on me.
He was always picking on you?
Sure, he was muscle-bound from the time he was 10. And, look, lady, I just want my dog.
I'm not at all sure that he is your dog.
Of course he's my dog. He's more to me than that if you only knew.
Now, look, Mr. Whatever your name is.
Blake.
Now, look, Mr. Blake, obviously your dog is not overjoyed at the thought of being back with you. It's quite evident that he dislikes you.
But he's just acting like a fool to embarrass me.
Mr. Blake, I happen to love animals. And I wouldn't even think of turning this dog over to you.
Look, lady, that's my dog.
That remains to be seen. If you'd care to prove your ownership with witnesses who testify you are a fit owner, we'll see what can be done. Good day, Mr. Blake.
You're more trouble dead than alive.
I beg your pardon.
Nothing.
Sit up. Yes?
I beg your pardon, Miss Marlowe. My name is James Blake.
Yes.
I have an appointment to meet my nephew here. Something about giving references as to his fitness to own a dog.
Oh, I see. Well, won't you come in?
Oh, thank you. I purposely came a little early because I wanted to talk to you before Larry got here.
Larry?
Lawrence Blake, my nephew.
Oh, is that the man I met in the park today?
Oh, you heard of him?
Of course.
Well, that makes things a little more simple.
Well, won't you sit down?
Thank you. Now, this isn't going to be easy to explain.
What isn't?
You know that dog you found?
Yes.
He thinks it's his brother.
Who does?
Larry.
Thinks it's whose brother?
His.
Oh, now, wait a minute. Let's run through this again.
Well, you see, Larry's brother, George, was killed in a plane crash about 2 weeks ago.
I read about it. I'm terribly sorry.
And now Larry thinks that George has come back and that he's the dog.
Who is?
George is.
Well, why does he think that?
Who?
Well, whoever thinks it.
Oh, you mean Larry. Well, as a matter of fact, we're all afraid that Larry is on the verge of a nervous breakdown and the shock.
Oh, I see. And you want me to give him the dog?
Oh, I should say not. His doctor told me that'd be the very worst thing in the world for him.
Well, then I don't...
But if he could just see him once in a while. The doctor thinks it wouldn't be wise for Larry to see too much of the dog, but if he could just see him once in a while.
Well, that's asking an awful lot to give the run of my apartment to a raving lunatic.
Oh, believe me, he's quite all right, except for this minor delusion.
Minor delusion? Since when is it minor to go around thinking your brother is a dog?
But it's just that he's been working it so very hard, and it's so important that he recovers.
Well, what excuse do I give him for not returning the dog?
Oh, you'll think of something.
I could tell him that his brother married the French poodle downstairs and that it'd be a shame to separate them.
There's Larry now. I know you'll think of something.
I did hear you right. This is the Lawrence Blake, and he's come here because he thinks my dog is the George Blake.
That's absolutely right.
Good afternoon, Miss Marlowe. I trust I'm not bothering you.
Not at all. Come in, Mr. Blake.
Thank you. Uncle Jim, you beat me here.
Obviously.
Well, then you two have had an opportunity to talk. I wasn't sure, but I thought you might like roses.
Thank you. I didn't expect you quite so soon, Mr. Blake.
Yes, well, I thought we might as well get it settled.
Looking for something?
Oh, yes, the little fellow you know.
Oh, he's in the kitchen having his dinner.
Well, pretty soft for him, eh, Uncle Jim?
Seems to be.
Yes, just the sort of spot George would pick for himself. Lovely girl, nice apartment.
Would you like to see him?
No. Let him finish his dinner. I don't want him butting in on things. Now then, I suppose that Uncle Jim has convinced you that I'm the proper owner?
Well, not quite.
Oh, come, Miss Marlowe. I'm sure that my references would satisfy anyone.
Anyone but me, Mr. Blake. You see, I've owned this dog for 5 years. And 2 weeks ago, he ran away for a couple of days. While you may take care of him, that hardly constitutes ownership.
You owned him for 5 years?
That's right.
I'd like to buy him.
That's impossible.
I'd be willing to pay almost anything.
I'm afraid I wouldn't be interested, Mr. Blake. However, since you seem to have taken such a liking to him, I'm sure that you could see him occasionally.
Well, that wouldn't work. I need him all the time. You won't sell him?
No.
Tell me, after he came back, did you notice any change in him?
Any change?
Yes, was his personality any different? Did you notice him looking at you with new eyes?
I'm afraid I don't know what you mean.
Well, for instance, have you ever noticed him look at you the way a dog normally wouldn't look?
Certainly not.
I'm afraid you will. Again, I ask you, you're sure you won't sell him?
I'm positive, Mr. Blake.
In that case, I'll say goodbye.
Any time you'd like to see him,
That won't be necessary, Miss Marlowe. Thank you just the same. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
George. Let's not have any of that nonsense tonight. Do you realize that I could get 10 years for breaking in here? Come here, you imbecile idiot. Oh, nothing to be alarmed about, Miss Marlowe. I'll have him back in the morning.
Operator! Police!
Pardon me, mister. Have you seen a man around here with a dog?
Dog?
Yeah, we just got a flash that somebody stole one.
I suppose this does look suspicious.
Why, no. But would you care to step over to the car with us?
Perhaps I'd better explain.
Perhaps you'd better.
You see, this is my dog.
Well, that explains everything.
And what would you say if I told you that he also happens to be my brother?
I'd be afraid to say anything.
It is a little hard to believe, isn't it?
Why, no, not at all.
Now, you look like intelligent men.
Yes, but don't count on it.
Now, look, there's a girl up there who's been keeping this dog. She wouldn't give him back. I need him.
I know, because he's your brother.
That's right. But you see, she doesn't know about that.
Well, can't she see?
Well, she probably wouldn't believe it anyway.
I understand. I have the same trouble with my wife.
Well, if you don't mind, I'll just be going along.
Oh, sure.
Can't we give you a lift?
Oh, it's just a few blocks.
Oh, it's no trouble. It's no trouble.
Well, if you're sure it's no bother.
No bother at all. We're glad to do it.
I hate to cause you this trouble.
Oh, it's no trouble. You see, we're public servants.
Yeah. You can't imagine how terrible it was. I had an awful time getting him out of there.
That's just half the battle. You should have heard the chief this morning. He's all for having Larry put away right now.
No, I couldn't permit it.
You may not have any choice. Larry's running around with a lot of top-drawer secrets on his mind. He's pulling the cork on himself.
Well, we'll just have to try a new approach.
You'd better. One more romp like last night, and it's a one-way ticket to the Happy Academy.
Now, in the first place, stop trying to convince him that he's wrong.
But really, Doctor, I can't...
No, you won't gain anything by arguing with him. It only tends to fix his fixation. We must agree with him. The dog is George. Anything you say, Doc.
Now, I don't want to discuss anything about what happened last night.
Of course not, Larry.
And there's no need for you to be here either.
Just a friendly visit.
Good morning, Larry. How are you feeling?
And you can run right back and tell the chief that I'm all right.
All right.
You know, Larry, I was just wondering, why don't you prepare a paper on what's happened to George?
Why should I?
Well, the scientific world is certainly going to be interested when they find out what's happened.
What has happened?
I mean about George coming back.
Now, don't tell me you believe that stuff.
Of course I believe it. And why not? You believe it.
Don't be silly. I've just been a little upset lately. Overworked.
You mean you're all right now?
Of course I am. And I want to thank you all for being so nice. You know, the shock of what happened last night seemed to snap me out of it.
Glad to have you back.
Glad to be back.
Where are you going?
I think I'd better go over to Miss Marlowe's and apologize for breaking into her apartment. I must have scared her half to death.
Oh, Larry, say hello to George for me while you're there, will you?
No, Doctor, this thing is beginning to run away from you. You'd better see a good psychiatrist. Looks as if we're going to have a drink. You know, Sandra, this is where we first met.
Hey, there he is now. Oh, the guy I was telling you about. Oh, the guy with the dog.
I don't believe it.
I guess I'm just stupid, but how do you make an atom bomb?
You just split an atom and mix it with a lot of other things.
You know, you're much too important to be taking such chances.
Don't tell me you're impressed.
I doubt if I'll ever forget you after last night.
Oh, couldn't we just keep that a secret between you and me and the readers of 5,000 American newspapers?
But seriously, you owe it to a lot of people not to let yourself get in that condition again.
Well, I have an old doctor I support who suggests less work and more play.
The doctor should be doing a lot of business with that prescription. Do you agree with him?
Well, my, pardon the expression, brother George used to take care of that department. But I suppose we could give it a try.
We.
Hello, Joe.
Good afternoon, Mr. Blake.
Oh, sorry, Dick. Can't see you today. Come on, Harry.
Well, you look as if love up and kicked you in the teeth.
And what if it has? Is that bad? The girl is lovely. We'll make a delightful couple.
When you go, you really go, don't you?
I think backward about the Blake family. I see my woman, predatory instincts take over, and I sweep her off her feet.
Oh, this is interesting. How did you do it?
Well, if you expect me to say something stuffy, you can forget it. I've wined her, and I've dined her. I've sent her flowers and love notes. I've anticipated her every wish. In other words, made a complete fool of myself.
I never would have believed it. Tell me, how are you making out?
Well, it's amazingly simple once you get the hang of it.
It's obviously a side to your character I've never seen.
That's because you never took the trouble to bring it out. Under the mind of a scientist may beat the heart of a lover. Be careful what liberties you take with me from now on.
Where are you going?
Who knows? Maybe to Madame Lazanka.
Buenas tardes, amigos. Good evening, my friends. It is for me, Cuban Pete, a great pleasure for me to teach you the rumba. It is unique, so charming, so romantic, and in 6 so simple records, it you will learn to dance. But first, you must learn to walk. The Cuban walk. Attention, please. In American dancing, like waltzes and foxtrots, there is no action with the hips. Now you will take a step like foxtrot. 1, 2. 1, 2. You see? No hips motion. When you take step in foxtrot with the left foot, you take step with the left foot. But in the rumba, no. When you step with the left foot forward, you don't step with the left foot forward. You stay with the right foot. This makes with the right hip to stick out. Now you step with the right foot forward. But no. You stay with the weight on the left foot. You see? The left hip sticks out. Now you will walk in this manner. Left foot forward, right hip out, right foot forward, left hip out, left foot forward, right hip out, right foot forward, left hip out, left foot forward, right hip out, right foot forward, left hip out. Hands on hips. But no, please, don't stop walking. And now you can feel the motion of the rumba, and you can feel how the hip sticks out. 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. It is good, no? Now for the basic rumba step. You will not just go forward and go back. You will go forward and go back at the same time. So, ready? Right foot forward, left foot forward, left foot back, right foot back, right foot forward, left foot back, left foot back, right foot back.
Oh, hello, Uncle Jim. I'm sorry. Did I wake you up?
No, that's quite all right.
Anything the matter?
I don't know. Is there?
Not with me.
Well, I'm glad to hear it.
Hey, I had a fine time tonight. That's a wonderful girl.
Who?
Sandra. She's not like any other girl I ever met.
They never are. How's her dog?
Oh, stop it. I told you that was over.
So, you really like this girl?
Huh?
Well, if you want any advice...
No. I think I can manage it. Hey, she might not look bad in the family. What do you think?
Bueno. Looks special good. You learn fast. And now you are getting ready for to dance with your so lovely partner. But first, you must know how to hold your partner. Very important. You will stand and face each other. You will be placing right hand about the partner's middle. But so gentle. The fingertips, that is the ends of the hand, should be touching the middle of what we are calling the spine. Oh, no.
Stop it, Larry.
Not so close. You must be apart from each other, 4 inches precisely. Now you are taking the lovely partner's lovely right hand, and amigo, here is the secret. You are pushing with the elbow forward so that your elbow and elbow of the lovely partner are touching. It is easy, no? Nothing to it. And now you are ready. Rumba! 1, 2, 3, 4.
You're really learning fast.
I'm trying. I light your cigarettes for you. I notice when your clothes are new. I wouldn't even know what another woman looked like if I saw one.
Sounds perfect. But maybe you'd better back out while there's still time.
Did I sweep you off your feet?
Don't be silly. Why do you think I gave you my address the first time I saw you?
Maybe you're a spy.
Oh, you know better than that. Since I've met you, I've been investigated back to my great-great-great-grandparents.
The chief is thorough. Maybe I'll let him be best man.
Well, what about Uncle Jim?
Bridesmaid.
You know, Jim and Terry are coming for coffee.
Did anyone ever tell you that I love you?
You did.
Well, hello there. Looks as if you're going to be a member of the family after all. Well, old fella, I owe you a lot. If it hadn't been for you... Now, cut that out. Let's not get started on that again. You are, George, aren't you? Oh! Now, listen, you. I don't want any trouble out of you. If you are George, you're going to stay George. When I think of how I'd let you hang around this apartment...
Oh, Uncle Jim, look, it's happened again.
Now, listen, there's one thing I'm going to insist on. From now on, we're going to let everybody in on it. People are beginning to think I'm nuts.
Larry.
He's back again.
Now, after all, you know better than that.
Uncle Jim, maybe I'm going crazy, and again, maybe I'm not. But I'll stake my life on one thing. This dog is my brother, George. Come in.
Hello.
Hello.
I live in the room next door.
Congratulations. Sit down.
Thank you. Are you happy here?
Definitely not.
I saw them bring you in. You put up a nice fight.
Nothing compared to the fight I'll put up if they don't let me out.
Why did they bring you here?
How do I know? I think they're all crazy.
way I feel.
How do you happen to be here?
Oh, I think it's because I think I'm the President of the United States.
Are you?
Of course not. But I think I am. What do you do for a living?
I invented the atom bomb.
Oh. If I were you, and I think I am, I wouldn't say that.
I invented the atom bomb.
Shall we read together?
Oh, Mr. President, have you forgotten a special cabinet meeting in your office at 11 o'clock?
Oh, thank you, Hartley. Thank you very much. It completely slipped my mind.
Nice guy, the president. Oh, Mr. Blake, the doctor'd like to see you, please.
Come in. Sit down, Mr. Blake.
I demand to see my psychiatrist.
In due time. You haven't said hello to your brother.
He's no brother of mine.
Well, now we're making some progress.
We're making progress. You mean he's making progress, and with my girl.
Well, you can stop worrying about that. We're going to keep him here.
Wonderful. They can't hold a lunatic for murder, can they?
You wouldn't harm your brother.
Oh, no?
You seem to have a strange aversion to dogs. Have you had other experiences with animals?
I had a teddy bear when I was 3.
Oh? What happened to it?
I ate it. And it may interest you to know that I intend to take this place down brick by brick.
That's not unusual. Didn't you get my cablegram?
You're alive?
Of course I am. Do I look like the type of fellow that'd haunt people?
But the plane crash.
Oh, I walked away from that. I had to walk for over 500 miles, as a matter of fact. Now, that ought to prove something to that microscopic brother of mine about keeping in condition. By the way, where is he?
George, you'd better have a drink.
Well, is something wrong?
When I tell you, you may want to walk back and climb into that wreck.
Come in.
Good evening. Doctor, this is the real George Blake.
How do you do, Doc? Where's Larry?
I thought it best not to break the news to him yet.
Imagine old Larry going as wingy as all that.
You'll have to let him get used to you gradually.
Oh, don't worry, Doc. He'll snap out of it as soon as he sees me. Quit it, George, quit it.
Papa George, or I'll make you sleep on the floor. But George, cut it out, or I'll have you put in a kennel.
No, you won't. Second month of patient Lawrence Blake. Patient beginning to show signs of recovery. Ate solid food today, 4 dog biscuits. Is beginning to distinguish between people and animals.
So you see, I wasn't killed in the crash at all. By some miracle, I escaped. I am not dead. You see me sitting here? You can hear me talking. I am not a dog.
That's what amazes me. How did you make the transformation back?
2 more weeks of occupational therapy for Mr. Blake. Lawrence Blake suffered slight relapse in 4th month. No longer thinks the dog is his brother, but thinks his brother is a dog.
Larry, can't you see? There is the dog and there is George. 2 completely different persons. I mean, things. They're not the same at all. They don't look alike. They don't act alike. And yet they're both perfectly alive.
You know, George, sometimes you really amaze me.
How do you mean?
You're always so obvious. Why pick a dog? Why not come back as a bird or a cat?
Patient Lawrence Blake walked in the grounds today. Saw a lassie picture without any martial effects. What is that, Mr. Blake?
That's a dog.
What is that?
That's my brother George.
You're sure?
Of course.
Absolutely positive?
Of course I'm positive. I found psychiatry practically painless, though I had some doubts about the doctor who was treating me. But he seemed much better when I'd left.
Larry, old boy, if I'd have known it would get you a girl like her, I'd have died and haunted you years ago.
Did she tell you that we've decided not to wait? We're going to be married immediately.
Wonderful. And my best wishes.
And mine, too. Thank you.
Thanks. When I say that I'm crazy about her, please don't misunderstand me. May I get you a drink?
No, thank you, darling.
How about one for his nibs?
No, he gave up drinking last week.
And it's about time.
George, where are you off to on this next trip?
How would you like to make it a double honeymoon? Terry and I are going to the West Indies. Oh, don't look so worried, Terry. If you're going to be an explorer's wife, you'll have to get used to picking up and leaving on a moment's notice. Well, aren't you going to congratulate me? What's the matter, Larry? Did I take you by surprise?
George, if you understand what I'm saying, bark once.